first of all, it led to conflicting messages. The Israeli defense minister, Israel Katz, tried to double down and say that it's not accurate, and they're leading into they will continue to dismantle Hezbollah in one way or the other. But for the Israeli citizens, as you've mentioned, Hamas is still in Gaza and it's still holding arms. Hezbollah is still in Lebanon, still holding arms, and there wasn't a regime change. It shows that there is going to be a shift in public opinion, but not necessarily anti-war, but more disappointment from what they were promised in the beginning of this war.
Thank you very much for speaking to us about this. Abed Abu Shahade joining us there from Jaffa. And the Israeli army has issued forced displacement orders in at least 7 suburbs of Beirut. It comes at the same time as the military is expanding its offensive in southern Lebanon. The Israeli government has ordered the demolition of homes in areas south of the Litani River. It says it's creating a buffer zone near the border to ensure national security. Hezbollah has been confronting Israeli soldiers in the area. The group says it's targeted a communications hub in northern Israel with drones. Let's get the latest with Obaida Hito, who's in Tyre in the south of Lebanon for us. So, Obaida, more evacuation threats for Beirut. Bring us up to speed with the situation on the ground.
Absolutely. There's also a new threat, which is hanging over people's heads right now in southern Lebanon, a threat by the Israeli military to target a very strategic set of bridges between Suhmur and Mashghara in the western Biqa Valley. These are 2 very strategic bridges that connect the central part of Lebanon, the north central part of Lebanon, with the western Biqa Valley. They cross over the Litani River. These are 2 of the main bridges that cross over the Litani River, where it flows from north to south, and they connect these very distinct parts of Lebanese geography, the south as well as the western Biqa. If these bridges are destroyed, they will essentially cut off the connection between the western Biqa and the southern part of the country. Part of that infrastructure has already been destroyed. The Dalafa Bridge was destroyed several days ago, which is north of the bridges that are being threatened today. If these bridges are destroyed, they're going to make it extremely difficult for people on the western side of the river to reach the western Biqa Valley and to reach places where there are more services in the western Biqa Valley, like Shtura, which is further north. This is going to cause even more suffering for the hundreds of thousands of civilians that have already been displaced from their homes. On top of that, Israel continues to destroy critical infrastructure in the country. In the Marja'yun region, there are some water facilities that were significantly damaged, cutting off water to dozens of villages in that region. And Israel continues to carry out its invasion and destruction of Lebanese villages on the border area. We continue to receive reports that border towns like Dibil, Naqura, Bayada, as well as Khiyam are all being invaded as well as destroyed in a systematic kind of demolition. This is something we've seen the Israelis do in Gaza and the West Bank, and now in Lebanon. The remnants of the 2024 war left over 37 villages affected by this policy. The Israeli officials that we're hearing from now are saying they're going to continue and expand this policy in southern Lebanon. It seems like there's some disconnect in Tel Aviv between the military and the political leadership about the scope and how long this is going to take. But what we're seeing is that Israel is committed to creating this so-called buffer zone at the expense of hundreds of thousands of Lebanese people, 600,000 of them displaced from south of the Litani River. And those warnings by Israel for people to move even further north past the Zahrani River are extremely concerning, because that's beyond the scope of what we've heard Israeli officials say is going to be covered by their supposed or so-called buffer zone. And that's leaving hundreds of thousands of people with a very big question. Are they going to be able to get home? And when are they going to be able to get home? The Lebanese government is calling on the international community to step in and to prevent this violation of their national sovereignty. But there's no end in sight to this war, and that's the main concern for people here in southern Lebanon.
And civilians caught in all of it, of course. Thank you very much, Obaida, for that. Obaida Hito, live for us there in Tyre, southern Lebanon. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump is requesting at least $1.5 trillion for defense spending in 2027. According to a White House budget document, he's also proposing a 5 to 7% pay rise for military personnel. Let's get the details with our White House correspondent once again, Kimberly Halkett. What more details do we know about this budget proposal, Kimberly?
Well, I think it's important to note that while the U.S. president, as you point out, is putting forward a proposal, this doesn't actually become the budget of 2027 unless the U.S. Congress approves it. And that requires bipartisan approval. So what we can take from this is that this is really more a listing of the Trump administration's priorities. It signals politically what they would like to do. And so there's no surprise in the fact that the U.S. president is looking to increase the defense spending for 2027 by some $500 billion to $1.5 trillion, and he wants to cut discretionary spending. So, for example, the National Endowment for Democracy is one of the things that has been highlighted as, according to the White House, being something that is woke, weaponized, and wasteful. And so this is consistent with what we've seen from the Trump administration in the first term and also more so in the second term, is that the U.S. president is looking to slash funding for programs that he deems to be counter to his goals. And so one of the other examples of that is funding for more green energy programs, which the U.S. president believes is redundant. So again, this is a proposal that's been put forward to the U.S. Congress. It will require a lot of discussion and will likely not resemble what is being proposed when it's finally passed into law. But again, the U.S. president putting forward a hefty hike when it comes to the military, which currently outlines exactly what is primary for him right now, and that is further funding to support the war in Iran or the after effects of it.
Kimberly, thank you very much. That's our White House correspondent, Kimberly Halkett in Washington. And more now on the war in Iran, and Tehran's effective blockade of the Strait of Hormuz has sent prices soaring globally and have caused shortage of oil and cooking gas, particularly in parts of Asia. In India, many migrant workers in the capital, New Delhi, are closing up shop and returning to their hometowns. India is the world's second largest LPG importer and is battling its worst gas crisis in decades.
I'm headed to my village in Bihar State. How will I operate my shop? Gas is not available. I live in Greater Noida and gas isn't available there.
Rich people can buy the cylinders, but we are poor. We can't afford $5 per kilogram. How much are we earning and how much will we have to spend on this?
Bangladesh has also introduced new measures to cut energy use. Office hours have been shortened and markets must now close earlier to reduce electricity demand. The government is also cutting non-essential spending and urging industries to limit power consumption. Authorities warn supplies remain tight as they seek funding and alternative energy sources to ease the pressure. Pakistan has increased fuel prices as a result of those disruptions in supplies. Diesel is going up 55% to $1.88 a litre, while petrol is 43% up at $1.65. This is